When Kobe and I decided to create a podcast and coined it the Father Son Podcast, most would feel this is a gimmick for the podcast, and that couldn't be further from the truth. From the day Kobe was born, I introduced him to video games. This was a way of life for me, as I can remember my father buying me the Odyssey home system, where the cellophane field that clung to the TV determined what game you were playing. Kobe's love for video games grew, as did the bond of a father and a son. When I introduced him to online play, his world opened to new heights. He learned quickly that the incredible gaming experience wasn't just something shared between a father and a son, but there was an entire world that shared his passion for gaming. Gaming was just part of his upbringing, as school or sports was. We always made arrangements that a video game experience was just an arm's length away, even when we went on vacation. As Kobe got older, our experience took us to the road, experiencing events like the Great E3 to more modern events like Summer Game Fest, the Xbox Experience, IGN, and PAX. Kobe graduated from college and now works in the video game industry on the Xbox team. So, as you can see, it was nothing but natural progression to now share our experience and love of the industry through our podcast. Now sit back and enjoy the ride.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Father and Son Gaming Podcast right here on Active Reload Gaming. My name is Kobe, aka Kobe127. That is Kevin, aka Octane699. Dad, how you doing?
Not too bad. Actually, a weekend of playing some RE9. Not too bad. Actually, looking forward to this coming weekend because Nate and I are going on a retro video game pilgrimage. We don't know if we're going south to Philly and hitting up as many game stores or north to Wilkes-Barre, Scranton and hitting up as many game stores. So I'm excited about that.
You know, the funny thing is this is a deep cut for only my D&D players, but you saying pilgrimage gave me some flashbacks because that is a pretty big term in my current D&D campaign. And it doesn't mean great things, but I'm happy you're going on your pilgrimage right now.
Yes, we are.
So that is going to be a lot of fun. But yeah, this weekend was very big Resident Evil. We're going to be reviewing it today as I have beaten the game and I'm currently on my second playthrough. So very excited to get into the review of that. And also I played Marathon and I'm very excited to give my impressions of Marathon. But before we get into the rest of today's show, I'd like to remind each and every one of you that you can follow all of our socials right here. If you are new or returning, you can come follow us on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Blue Sky, and Spotify at Active Reload Gaming. Twitch and Twitter or X, that is Active Rel with an REL, Active Rel Gaming. In the top left corner, you'll see that QR code right there. You can actually scan it with your phone, join our Discord, and hop in and start building the community with us, as we would like to chat with each and every one of you and talk all things gaming. So you could talk about any of your recent pickups, what you're currently playing, talk about some current gaming news, and so on. We're really trying to build it with each and every one of you so that you are welcome with us.
And jump on Spotify. I didn't see anything on Spotify yet. I'm starting to think all my time is wasted. I need some subscribers on Spotify because I do that.
This is a pity call at this point.
It is. It is.
So, but yeah, just for kind of breaking down today's structure of the podcast, we're going to be starting with Marathon. Then we're going to be moving into the Resident Evil Requiem review. And then after we're done reviewing it, this guy is going to hop off because I'm going to be doing a solo spoiler cast where I'm going to be talking all things spoilers regarding Resident Evil Requiem. So if you don't care about spoilers, feel free to stick around and hear about a lot of the story beats that I find pretty interesting. If you do care about spoilers, you can come back later on when you have finished the game. But if you have finished the game, I welcome you to chat with me in the chat as I go over some of my favorite moments and the craziest things that I have seen in the Resident Evil franchise. But let's start with a little game known as Marathon. Marathon comes out in 3 days. I think it's March 5th that the release date is happening, March 5th or 6th, but the server slam has happened over the weekend. In the busy time of the 3 games that I played this week, and the 1 game that I played is redacted at the moment, so I cannot talk about it, but once we do get communication that we can talk about it, I'm very excited to talk about the redacted game that I played. But that being said, I did give my about 3-ish hours to Marathon. This is Bungie's new title. It is a extraction shooter. It's going to be a new Sony live service game. Marathon has had its ups and downs in terms of the internet zeitgeist, and the perception of Marathon, I feel like, fluctuates every other day. And you and I have a pizza bet of who's getting a pizza if this game does succeed. So,
and Bombay might get one too.
Bombay might get a pizza on top of it. He has been brought into the bet. So, either ways, all that being said, I have played Marathon, and I know you might have had some questions for me about Marathon, but where do we even want to start with this? Because you didn't get a chance to check this out.
The first thing that I look at, and I thought from day one, is it too colorful?
I don't think so. I think the art style is going to be hit or miss with people. For me, it really hits. I really like this blocky sci-fi aesthetic.
It looks like a Lego game.
To me, it looks like Mirror's Edge. I keep getting Mirror. Yeah. It looks like Mirror's Edge to me, but I dig this glitchiness aesthetic because you really don't see it that much in games. I like it. I don't think it's too colorful. I really like the visual art style and direction that they are going for here. But yeah, I didn't have any issues with it. But it's going to be in the eyes of the beholder. It really depends on what you vibe with as a person.
Again, it looks like a Lego game to me. It doesn't look like a serious game that I would take serious. I'm going to go first and foremost because we're looking at it here, and it's Bungie. What's the game? What's the gunplay like?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I think the biggest compliment I can give the Marathon is the gunplay. It's a Bungie game.
Correct.
All Bungie games have very solid, very tight gunplay, and that is here. So if you played any Destiny, if you played Halo, you know what the gunplay is going to feel like. They keep iterating on the same style, and it continues to get more and more refined. So I think in terms, of how tight it felt really, really good. Cherry Tomato Boy says, I see the Mirror's Edge comparison. 1 point for me.
Yeah, I do a little bit in there, but I hated Mirror's Edge anyway. But
Mirror's Edge was great.
No, it's not. Every time someone says Mirror Edge, I wish we could pull up The Office, parkour. Parkour. That's all I think of when I hear Mirror's Edge. But now, what platform did you play it on?
I played this on PC. When it comes to games like this, even like Arc Raiders, I like to be on PC because this is a PC-ass game to me. It's a first-person shooter. It requires precise aiming. I like to have these headphones on and have the full surround sound because it also requires you listening to audio cues and hearing footsteps around you and hearing proximity chat. I think this to me, also the ultra wide, this is just a PC game for me, and it ran spectacularry. I ran into zero hitches with the PC version of this. I run on a 4080. I have a Ryzen 9950X 3D. The game ran phenomenally. I was hitting about an average of 90 frames with the game on full settings. So optimization felt great. I did not run into any issues whatsoever.
Now, I know this was the server slam, but did you have any issues? And I know it's a little premature because you're not judging it on this, but did you have any issues getting in the servers?
A little bit at first. The server was slammed. People were slamming it, and I did have a queue at one point, and it did. I couldn't get in for a couple minutes, but after that, it worked itself out. And I do think the matchmaking took a little bit longer than I had anticipated. But then again, I ran this completely solo, so maybe there wasn't enough solo queues out there. I didn't get a chance to play this with a full squad, which leads me into the core gameplay of Marathon. So I don't know. I really don't know about Marathon.
I hear pizza, Bombay. I hear pizza.
Here's the thing with Marathon. I think there's going to be an audience for this game. I think it is very, very different than Arc Raiders. I think if Arc Raiders was your first extraction shooter and you are coming into this expecting a game that flows like that, you aren't getting it. This is a more hardcore tactical extraction shooter, and I'm going to put it in the vein of Tarkov. I think it is less sweaty than Tarkov. I think it feels better than Tarkov. It looks better than Tarkov, and I think this is going to be for the Tarkov audience. For me, it didn't hook me immediately. Now, granted, I played it on the first day of the server slam. I ran into some issues that I know they fixed later on, and I never went back to try it. In my entire 3 hours that I played this game, I saw 0 people on the map. I didn't get into any PvP fights, which is the other half of this game. I did fight a lot of AI. The AI was fun to fight. I do like their enemy design, their variety. I thought it was challenging when you get into some of the higher tier loot areas, kind of going in and figuring out your strategy. But I think where Marathon is going to falter is the sloppy onboarding process. I don't think this game is very fair to the newcomer, because I personally was very confused about what this game was trying to get me to do. Even though I know the style of extraction shooter, this game does not hold your hand. And I think that is for some people. And I think it needs a better tutorial to get people into this game. The other thing is, I do think the UI was kind of a hot mess. There were so many moments in this game where there's a lot of information on the screen at all times, especially when it comes to loadouts and everything. And in World, the one thing I did not like is, like, whenever you go to pick up an item, there's always a plus sign next to it. And I always thought it was like a medical item, even though it wasn't. So, like, I was kind of getting confused with the messaging of the UI. I do think the shell loadout is an interesting concept, going in with this hero shooter mentality into an extraction shooter. I do think that adds another layer, but I really didn't even get to use it because I saw no people. And also, like I said, I was solo queue. So there could be a lot of issues and variations that made me get to this point. But unlike the Arc Raider server slam, this one just did not hook me immediately. And I do think there is a world where this game can succeed. I think there is a lot of potential here, but I don't know if the average player is going to muscle through the onboarding process, or lack of, in order to get to what this core gameplay feel is. Because realistically, I think this is going to take 7 to 10 runs to realistically have a good concept of what Marathon is asking of you. Whereas I think with Arc Raiders, it kind of, right off the bat what you're doing. I think they lay out the map very well. They tell you, hey, here's low tier loot areas, mid tier, high tier. You can go decide. Here's all the enemy AI. I think the audio design in Arc Raiders is a little bit more well thought out as well, in terms of the footsteps and hearing things around the world. I just think Marathon there is potential of a game here. And I don't know if it's truly ready for the March 5th date yet. I think this could have used a little bit more time. But a server slam is a server slam. This is only 20% of the game. They didn't give us all the maps, all the content. There could be more here. But I think people are going to be really, really suffering through that initial few hours. That's going to turn them off.
What's the Minecraft looking thing that keeps floating around you? Your little AI companion. It looks like something from Minecraft.
It might be one of the hero abilities. I didn't see it during my playing because I was using the destroyer shell, which is the one who has a deployable shield that they can use in front of you.
Okay. Now I do know, I saw them flashing it up here. I do know when you started to play this, you took a screenshot of the loadout AI or whatever it was.
Yeah.
UI, I mean the loadout UI, and I was like, holy crap, is that absolutely crazy? But here's my point about it. You kind of see there's that Minecraft looking thing floating around you. Here's your point though, and this is my point about gaming in 2026. There's so many choices that if you don't hook a player within the first hour, I think you lose half your player base anymore, because there's too many choices. Even 10 years ago, I think, hey, you had the time to let this, percolate in there and let people get used to it and roll with it. I think you have an hour and people are out, because there's so many other games to play, so many other games that they understand right away and can jump into, play, and get out. This is one of the reasons why I felt that Marathon is going to flop.
I don't think it's going to flop. I don't think it's in the car. Well, there's so many definitions of flop.
Correct.
I don't think it's going to flop. I think it will be successful, but I don't think it's going to hit the Arc Raiders success. I just also Cherry Tomato Boy says they should have made a single player game with, and I agree. Marathon is like, it is drenched in really cool lore. There's a lot of cool shit around this game. And I think this being Extraction only really does kind of hurt it in a sense, because Extraction is already a genre that is super hardcore to get into. Arc Raiders is the first one to really break through to the mass audiences. Like before that, it has been an unforgiving genre that many people don't even interact with. And like I said, I think there's going to be an audience here for this. I think it's going to capitalize on the Tarkov audience more than the Arc Raiders audience, because it's going to be that hardcore Extraction shooter person that really wants to vibe with it. I do think I'm going to be getting this on day one, though, because for as much as I say I don't know, there's a part of me that still wants to go back, because I keep like itching. I'm like, you know what? There was moments where I'm like, I like this. I really like the gunplay. Like, I love how a Bungie game feels, and I want to give it its proper time to really get into it. But I know, and I agree with you, not many people have the time or the patience. So I'm going to be the anomaly here. If it doesn't hook you, it's not going to hook you. And I'm not going to force you to buy it. But I think there is potential for a good game here.
And then you have, again, this dropping what, in a week? Is that when it comes out?
It comes out in 3 days.
3 days. You know, and then you have this, that you have Crimson Desert dropping.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just telling you, I think that you're going to see an influx of people in the beginning, and within a month, you're going to see half the people.
Only time will tell. Only time will tell. But
I think you'll have a big, just because of the Bungie pedigree, you're going to have a lot of people up front trying this. Yeah. But I think that they're going to fall into what you fell into, and you're going to see half of them say, I'm out. I'm going to go back to playing Ark, or I'm going to, play Crimson Desert, or I'm going to play they can go back and play GTA 5 like most people still do. But I just think that they're going to be out. I really do. I just think that Bungie did not hit this out of the park.
Cherry Tomato Boy says, Bungie has a deal with Sony that if Bungie doesn't hit their revenue metrics, Sony assumes direct control. If Marathon isn't a smash hit, I think it's the final nail in the coffin.
I do. And we talked about this last week, Cherry, that I read somewhere that Sony is already taking some Bungie employees and took them under the Sony wing. Now you say, well, they own it. What's the difference? Well, they took them out of the Bungie hardcore studio and absorbed them into Sony already. I think they know that this isn't fully baked, and I think they know that they're not going to hit their metrics. Well, and let's be honest, Sony is dying for some type of game like this, and they just didn't hit it with Marathon.
One of these days we'll have to do a deep dive into Sony's strategy, because their whole live service movement is continuing to backfire in some way or another. Like I'm very curious to deep dive into Sony, but in 3 days we'll find out what the mass audience thinks of Marathon once the full game is released for $39.99.
You would think in 2026, stick with what you know. It's worked very damn well for Nintendo. Stop trying to reinvent your wheel. You've tried live action services. Obviously, they flopped, and some of them have flopped harder than others.
Yeah. Just
stick with what you know.
Yeah. That's what the people are clamoring for. But Resident Evil Requiem. I have played and finished the game. You are in
I'm a little over 50, like 51,
you are
52.
Getting towards the 50% mark. Last time you told me. I am so excited to talk about Resident Evil Requiem. I know Bombay in our Discord said that they finished it this weekend as well. So Resident Evil Requiem is the 9th mainline game in the Resident Evil franchise. This one stars new protagonist Grace Ashcroft and returning action hero Leon S. Kennedy. This game is, set in the modern day. Leon is an old man now. He's 51 years old. He is not the young chap he was in Resident Evil 2.
Rocking it at 51. He's an unk. He's an unk.
He is something else in this. But so I want to start with you. As you are barreling towards the 50% mark, high level, what are your overall thoughts of Resident Evil Requiem right now?
Again, to me, best Resident Evil by far. Like, there's not even, hey, this is good. I'm between this and RE2 or whatever, RE4, whatever you want to say. This by far, head and shoulders, best Resident Evil I've played, hands down. No questions asked, hands down. Some of the things that I really, and we just had this conversation yesterday. Now, this is pretty hard to quantify, but I'll say, in my opinion, it's in the top 10 voice acting that I've ever seen in any game.
We can start diving into some of the aspects of the game because I definitely want to get to that point. Before we go into my thoughts, overall thoughts, like what as of right now, what are you scoring this?
As of right now, 9.5 out of 10.
Yeah,
easily,
so
hands down.
For me, and what platform are you playing it on?
I'm playing it on the Xbox console.
Okay. I'm also playing it on Xbox Series X. I finished it on Xbox Series X. My total play time was 12 hours to get to from start to the finish. As of right now, in terms of achievements, I always mention that I'm only 6 achievements away from getting all the achievements in the game. The only things that are left are speedrun completion, insanity mode, which is a difficulty mode you unlock after beating the game. And then just some miscellaneous things in terms of mechanics that we'll get into a little bit later of not doing certain things. But all that being said, the achievement list is very easy, and I am almost done with it. But yeah, Resident Evil Requiem, at the end of the day, has become my personal favorite Resident Evil. I had heard the clamoring that this game was insane. I have heard many people describe it being like as the true return of the franchise, and we have seen them build the return of the franchise. Like Resident Evil 6 was such a stain on Resident Evil that they went back and they completely revitalized this whole franchise. Resident Evil 7 moving to 8, and we finally culminate with 9. And you can clearly see the trajectory that they have taken with the franchise and just kept iterating and building on this new formula that we get to Requiem, where Requiem is truly the best parts of 7 and 8 and the best parts of Resident Evil 4 mashed in one. This is the tale of 2 games mashed into one game. And I think the way it ebbs and flows is honestly brilliant. Obviously, from the trailers, everyone knows it is a dual protagonist game. Half of the game is Grace, half of the game is Leon. Grace Ashcroft takes the more survival horror approach that you had seen in Resident Evil 7. And it is more slow, methodical. You are really scraping by with your resources, and you have to stealth around. You are being precise with your movements. And that is what Resident Evil 7 was all about. And then you get to Leon, where this one, they really want you to be aggressive. This is an aggressive ass game where they incentivize you. They say, you know what? Here's 100 bullets. Just go slay as many things as you can. You know what? Here's a hatchet. You want to parry things in this game with that? You want to parry chainsaws? Yeah, go for it. You are at this point, Leon is too old to be scared, and he is really showing that in this game. And at the end of the day, in terms of my personal rating, I give Resident Evil Requiem a 9.5 out of 10. I think this is a phenomenal video game. One of the best, if not the best, survival horror games in the genre. And the reason, Kobe, why isn't it a 10 out of 10 if you're saying all these things? When we get to the spoiler talk later, I do have a criticism about the story that really brings it down a notch. Not by much, but it's a minor criticism about one story decision that they make in this game that I was like, it could have been better in terms of how they were building towards it and the execution. But yeah, so I think I want to start talking about, let's start with the gray sections first. Because before Resident Evil Requiem, for me, Resident Evil 7 was my self-proclaimed favorite Resident Evil. I love going through the swamp and the bayou in Louisiana, the Baker house. I really like that slow, methodical gameplay, the transition to the first person. I really like that. And they take the best moments of 7 and they refine it to such an amazing degree. And I think one of the most brilliant choices was putting you in this new character who has a lineage to a character from Resident Evil Outbreak, a game that really doesn't get that much love at all. A lot of people kind of forget about Resident Evil Outbreak, but they start making these loose connections here and there. And I think when you get set foot into Grace's adventures, you are really in the eyes of someone who is super anxious, who has no idea what is going on, is being thrusted into this world that she is really unfamiliar with. And you feel the tension and anxiety. And I think the brilliant moment is, unlike Resident Evil 7 and 8 with Ethan Winters, where you are progressively getting better and better weapons, this one, they give you 2 weapons off the bat, and that is your weapons for the rest of Grace's run. Like you have a pistol, and then you have Leon's revolver, which I want to quickly talk about. Such an awesome name, the Requiem. What a cool name for a revolver.
It is a beast.
As we go, Bombay says the multi-character gameplay was interesting and not what I was expecting from a gameplay or storyline. I honestly expected this to be the Leon show, but the telling of the story from both sides was top notch. I expected Grace to be another Ashley just falling around, being in the way with very little actual gameplay from her. And Cherry Tomato Boy says, I took off the point for the Leon and Chris kissing scene. Yeah, sorry, guys. that there's a hardcore making out scene by the end of this game. But yeah, I totally agree with Bombay. Giving Grace her own agency and really refining this gameplay where it is true survival horror, like some of the really tense, scary sequences in this game. Like, I don't know. How are you feeling about the Grace momentum?
I thought it was great. I was a little skeptical at first of mashing the two together, because let me just start back last year at PAX, what Kobe and I played
Summer Game Fest. No, it was revealed at Summer Game Fest, but we played the demo at PAX. Yeah.
We played the demo at PAX, and we absolutely loved it. It was really nothing compared to that. It was so much more than that. Yeah. And I thought, back then, you got to remember, go back in time, we didn't know that Leon was even going to be in it at that point.
Yeah.
But I liked the two aspects, because to me, you would think that it was something that would not fit, but it was actually like a peanut butter and chocolate moment, that high energy with Leon, and then you're back down to this, take a deep breath, and now you got to stealth get through with her. But here's my negative, and I said this to Kobe why I didn't give it a 10. And Bombay, you would know kind of what I'm talking about if you finished it. I didn't like the fact that Grace did not have melee unless she had a knife in her hand. So, I wish there would have been a melee, like when she didn't have a knife, just a swing of a punch, not to kill them. You couldn't kill them with it, but to stun them, to get more around the stealth. Because I found myself in a lot of situations where I'm out of ammo, I don't have a knife or a bottle to throw, and I would die because I just couldn't get around a mob. I just felt that at that point you should be able to have a fist of a melee to be able to stun them, to get around them.
The one part I will disagree with you on is, there was many moments in this where I'm like, shit, I'm running low on resources. I need to really think about this. And the one thing, yes, they don't have a strict melee, but button that you can have at all times. Now, granted, when you do buy some of the bonus content after you finish the game, you can get an infinite knife for the next playthrough, which you always have on you. But that being said, if you are running and a zombie catches onto you, you do have it recharges slowly in the background. But if you're running and a zombie catches onto you, Grace will kind of they'll grab and she'll dodge away and kind of push them away. So I think the mechanic is already built into it. Now, in terms of actual gameplay mechanics, this isn't Grace. The one small gripe I do have with it's very nitpicky, but I think Leon should have had a dedicated dodge button as well. There is parrying in this. I wish there was many moments where I felt like I should dodge as him, even a sidestep, but that's such a small nitpick. But yeah, going back, I don't know. I like Grace not having a full-on melee at all times because it really adds to the tension. And I think the thing that is so brilliant about Grace's sections is the tension building. This is some of the most tense Resident Evil moments I have experienced.
But again, I'm not disagreeing with that. My point being is some type of melee to give you a fraction of a second instead of having a parry for her. When she doesn't have it, some type of swing that gives you enough, that fraction of a second to get around them. That's all I'm saying. I understand and I agree with you that it builds the tension, but I just felt helpless at points, like that I can't do anything, and I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna die here, and I didn't like that. That was, I guess, Mayan. There had to be something that you're never left with nothing. I don't know of a game that you're left with nothing.
Cherry Tomato Boy says Leon is too old to dodge. Just ask Kevin.
He's
Leon's spin kicking in this. I think he can do a little bit of a dodge. Bombay says, I'm okay with her not having fully having one, but I wish she could dodge or something more. But the level designs at times don't always allow it, and it requires you to use other mechanics of the game, which I agree with Bombay on this one. I think there's a lot of mechanics. Like,
no pizza for you, Bombay.
But here's the thing. There was never a moment in Grace's sections where I felt like I had nothing. Like, I still think, like, to me, I still had something to at least scrape by within Grace's sections. But speaking of Grace's sections, I do want to talk about, first off, both characters have completely different inventory systems, completely different philosophies and mechanics. Right. And I want to hone in on Grace's mechanics first. How did you like that her currency is blood? She's taking needles and she is extracting blood. And this is your currency to craft items on the fly in the game.
I actually like that a lot. I thought it was unique. I thought it was different. I like that, you can use the blood to analyze to get your blueprints.
Yeah.
Like, I enjoyed that because that's where I'm at. I would have been further along in the storyline, and it's rare that I do this, and I could probably count on both hands how many games ever drove me to do this, but not am I only looking for every achievement in here, but like you see here, I'm trying to collect, every plant, then that's her health. Like, I'm trying to get everything that is on the levels. I love this game so much that I didn't want to move on till I exhausted everything. I'm trying to kill every zombie in every room on every level just because I enjoy the mechanics. And again, I told you that was that's why I didn't give it a 10 out of 10, was I thought she should have some type of melee all the time. But the rest of it, I'm just absolutely loving to get through. So I didn't think that I would like Grace as much as Leon. Never did I think that, but I do.
I think both styles of gameplay pair so well with one another that this slowed and high octane action really works. Now, I do want to talk about the level design of this game. I think, this Resident Evil, realistically, I didn't think had any filler whatsoever. This is all killer, no filler. Like, I think there has been times in the past where Resident Evil really gives you some, BS puzzles where it's like, okay, like, I'm stuck in this room, like, I'm looking around, and like, as much as I don't mind the backtracking, sometimes the backtracking did get, a little bit repetitive, and I felt like there was a lot of padding at points in some of the older Resident Evils. This game is snappy. Like, it is, you are spending just enough time in each section to keep you moving forward. And I really, really appreciated that. And I do think that the backtracking in this one is actually super well thought out. And I always get such a dopamine hit of like, oh, I see this locked door, I'm going to go grab this item. I'm going to open that door, which opens a whole new area. So that being said, I do think this level design was really well thought out. And I do like that as Grace, you see things that you can't open until Leon comes around and vice versa. And I really like how they have like these visual cues throughout the game being like, okay, clearly this is going to be a Leon moment, where, okay, this is clearly going to be a Grace moment.
I'll tell you, watching the video here, this was my other little pet peeve of why I didn't get a 10 out of 10. And again, guys, this is small, but when you would pick up an item, and you have to, like, let's just say that it was a book. You picked it up, it looks like a closed book. You had to get the right angle that it would give you the cue to open it up. And you're making a face, let me finish. I was getting agita when I would pick something up and I didn't know if it had a visual cue to open it or do something with it. So I was spending more time making sure that I twisted it at the, a notch by a notch by a notch to make sure that I didn't miss something. That was giving me agita.
I was gonna say that's every Resident Evil game where you have to do the turning to figure something out. Nothing has changed. So
yeah, no, I agree, but I'm just saying for this, and I'll weirdly say, which I probably won't be a popular one, but my favorite Resident Evil is 5. I loved Resident Evil 5. That was probably my favorite RE. So that should tell you that I'm not the standard. Let's call out the easy ones. I'm a Resident Evil 5. But again, back to Grace. I thought her story was outstanding. I thought it was a perfect pace. The pace of it to me is what really got me. Like, it wasn't too slow and it wasn't too fast. It was just in the sweet spot that the minute that you were able to gather yourself after a big thing like this,
this creature was terrifying. This thing gives you such, especially if you're playing in first person, which I did first person for Grace, third person for Leon. I think that's the way that the game intends it. I didn't even try third person with Grace, so this is the first time I'm really seeing it. This creature was terrifying. Running around from this and like just the tense moment of you're running, the sound design. We'll talk about the sound design quick. Yes. Also, Shampoo asks or says, "Doesn't look like you got a pizza." That's like a month from now on. We'll that bet will come to fruition after
Marathon drops.
Yeah. And then Cherry Tomato Boy says, "Does this game have any villains like Lady Dimitrescu?" No, it does not. Bombay says Grace is survival horror. Early game with limited resources, not knowing what was coming up next hit it home. The ebb and flow of panic followed by a small amount of calm really attached me to her gameplay. Her personality being thrown into these situations and being scared really helped to intensify the horror aspect of the game. I found myself emotionally attached to her story almost to the point where I forgot that Leon wasn't there just to kick ass and take names. 100% agree. Like,
I agree.
This game is so masterfully done that this is truly both of their stories, and both of their stories are done so well. And we're going to get into the Leon sections in a little bit. I want to talk about some of Leon, but I can't talk too much about Leon because a lot of his portions in the second half of the game, and the second half of the game is insane. But so yeah, with Grace, like going back to the sound design, nothing beats especially in this moment, you're running and you hear this creature's footsteps just charging right at you, and you do not want to turn around because it is so close. Like, this game had me relive moments like in Outlast where I hear something just charging me, and it is so heart-wrenching and
or
anxiety-inducing.
You're running down the hallway and you hear it in the wall and above you.
Yeah.
Coming in. Like, I'm like, oh my God, it's going to pop out in front of me again. Where I'm like, do I run to the hall, down the hall? Do I wait? I'm trying to hear it in the walls. I couldn't agree more because I loved Outlast. And you do get that visceral, tightening of your chest. Like, oh my goodness, is it going to pop out? I couldn't agree more with that. This again, I don't know what her name is. The monster coming that you see was horrifying.
I know, but I can't say anything right now. Just the big monster. Shampoo says, I don't know. Horror games are great, but I don't like that dread feeling. Not good for my heart. I don't know if this one. Listen, this game gets your heart pumping from just being like, hell yeah. Then it's like heart pumping from like, oh no.
But the sound design, and you and I talked about it, the only part, and again, I am nitpicking. I told you this is, a 9 to a 9.5 out of 10, is when Grace gets anxiety or uptight, she does this weird breathing. There's times that I'm just standing, like here, there's nothing around, you're just looking for stuff, and she'll do that weird breathing. It started to get on my nerves.
I'm going to throw you into a situation like this. I want to see how you breathe.
That's all right. I wouldn't be breathing heavy at all, man. I'd be cussing and screaming.
So yeah, at the end of the day, I really loved Grace's sections, and I do want to, as we see it, because this is running on RE Engine. Let's talk about the graphics for a second, because this game is stunning looking. I think that the way that the lighting is so well thought out in some of these areas, like they use lighting so well, especially in a section like this where the lighter is reflecting off all the environments. Like, This game is so pretty, and I have seen clips of it on PC, especially running at super ultra. Like, it is one of the most beautiful games that I have seen, and all from the character models to the hair to like the textures, like and the global illumination and the ray tracing. Like everything in this game is stunning, and it runs incredibly well on all platforms. I was running at a constant 60 on Xbox. I know even Switch 2 looks pretty good and runs at a constant 60 as well. But yeah, the PC. On basis, I thought the game looked great, but with all RE Engine games, it looks wet. Yeah, the characters do look a little wet, but besides that, the entire game is so stunning.
Yeah, and again, when looking at graphics, the three things I always look at, if you want to talk out good graphics, and you mentioned one of them is hair, next one is fire, and the next one is water. They're the three things that you always look at to tell how well the engine's working for them. And I was totally blown away by the hair, especially when you look at the little girl that's blind. That's not a spoiler. Little girl that's blind in there. Like, look at the textures in her hair. Like, to me, it's some of the best hair that I've seen. The light play, like you said, incredible. So I was shocked because I think it was Shemplu and I were talking today. At first, he said, "Is it, Unreal 5?" And I said, "No, I think that it's the RE engine." And he's like, "Oh yeah, I remember that they do it in the RE engine." I was pretty impressed how well this ran. Yeah. Zero Unreal stutters. I could tell you that. I haven't had any glitches.
I only had one bug in this game, but it was such a funny bug that at a certain point you get with Leon, you get guns that have straps that put around yourself. And when I would take out the gun, the strap would glitch out and it would shoot all the way across the map. It would become like this 30-foot long strap that's on the gun. It would be funny until I just restarted. But before we get into Leon and his mechanics and what he plays like, I want to take a quick word from our website, activereloadgaming.com.
Got games you don't play anymore? Turn that collection into cash at activereloadgaming.com. It's fast, it's easy, and you get paid quick. Or if you are looking to buy, check us out on eBay or scroll through our Games by console. Find us at Active Reload Gaming.
Let me just quickly mention before you go on to him to finalize about the RE engine, and you got to give a shout out to Capcom. I think Capcom, more than any other studio, runs this through that they want to give the most polished game out there. I think that, every game will have a little bit of a glitch or something like that. But, when it comes to Capcom, I think they really put care and energy into making sure that the game they release is 100%.
Yeah. Fully agree. Capcom has really had gone on a generational run with Resident Evil at this point, starting with 7, rolling into 2 remake, then 3 remake, then 4 that were Village, then 4 remake, and now 9. Like, this has been an incredible series of games. But I want to move on to Leon now, the return of the action hero. How would you feel about Leon's gameplay style? Because, as we were seeing from all the marketing, they were really hyping up Leon, that this is an older Leon. He's in his 50s. He's not the young lad that was in RE2 or even 4 anymore. And this game takes 4 remakes gameplay and really amps it up to a 10 at this point. This Leon could not care about anything. He is here to do his job, and he kills anything in his way. So when you first got to play as Leon in the streets, when the outbreak of what is happening, I'm not going to say story spoilers, but you've seen in the clips that people are running in the streets. What was your first feeling playing as Leon, and how do you like the new mechanics, especially with the hatchet, the parrying, being able to pick up melee weapons such as the chainsaw, being able to throw? There's a whole bunch of there, and obviously the Requiem. So let's start there. How are you feeling about Leon?
That was the first. Well, first off, this was probably the holy shit moment we're watching here is when Leon gets the chainsaw. That really made it visceral for me. But going back to the beginning, I was pleasantly surprised when I picked up the pipe and was able to throw it.
Yeah.
I'm like, wow, I thought I was picking it up to use it as a melee weapon, to be honest with you. And, but yeah, the way that he felt, I thought they did it justice.
Also, the one thing with Leon, I do like is when you do drop the chainsaw becomes an enemy in the playing field where you have
Correct.
to control the floor in order to make sure the chainsaw doesn't get you. And as the chainsaw spins around, it's not only attacking you, it's attacking other enemies. And then it's like this split second moment where you and the enemy are both dashing towards the chainsaw to pick it up.
I agree, because I had 1 or 2 battles with a zombie trying to get to the chainsaw. But yeah, I think the mechanic change that was a negative in my mind for Leon's playstyle. Everything that they changed was a home run, in my opinion. I don't know that there's one mechanic other than, again, a dedicated parry button or something. You know,
dodge button, because you can parry.
Yeah, because it's the left bumper. That would be the only thing I would have added. I agree with that. But other than that, I think everything they did to change his mechanics was a home run.
Yeah, fully agree. I think they really, and I agree with Bombay here. He says Leon's gameplay was modern Resident Evil to its core. Some cheesy, witty one-liners filled with action, over-the-top animations helped bring balance to the horror side of the game. Yeah, I think he was brilliantly used in this, and I don't know if I would have changed anything about Leon's portion of this game. And I'll even say this isn't spoilers, but like even with Leon, like they go so far as to like introducing Uncharted level set pieces in the second half of the game, where like they really make it like a B tier action horror schlocky movie, but it's done to such a high pedigree that you can't help but smile. And the one thing, I said, like, what the game really does well in terms of the dual protagonist storyline is like there are enemies that pop up in Grace's sections that are so powerful that you cannot really take them on with her, but they are actually meant for Leon's gameplay when you're rolling through as him in those sections. So I really like this like push and pull of like, okay, I'm on the verge of death as Grace with these enemies, but then Leon rolls through. He's like, I'm gonna kick you in the face. I really don't care. So I really just like him, and I really like his story in this game. Like, obviously, he is dealing with something pretty tragic, and it is a ticking time bomb for Leon. And I really like that tension that they added, that even though his game style isn't full of scares, you are really feeling the intensity that is brought with him because of his situation. I'm being very coy with the terms because I don't know what people know or don't know about his side of the story right now. But they add that layer of intensity and tension through story means and what he is personally dealing with. And, Bombay mentions like the one-liners. Yeah, his one-liners are here and like they're great. Like there's so many callbacks to older Resident Evils with Leon that it's just like he's a much more mature character. And some of these one-liners have some sadness behind them. And like there's moments in this game where you start to see the man under the one-liners, and it's actually genuinely brilliant of how they actually start to delve into his character and the regrets that he has.
Two things to go back to. One, I love the hatchet. I find myself using the hatchet more than the gun sometimes because I like the way that feels, and I like the animations with it and everything else. And two, just looking at the gameplay keeps bringing up stuff that I'm the type of guy that I like to check everything, look at every corner, check every book and every drawer. Here's the unique thing that, and I said this in past podcasts, I'm not a guy that likes to backtrack, and I did not feel backtrackish in this. And I think Resident Evil does it right. But you can go in this room you're in now, and nothing is actionable in it. You could go do something 5 rooms away, and when you come back, it makes something actionable in this. That's what I liked about it, that you constantly had to cover your tracks even though you came through that room before.
Yeah.
I liked when things would open up after the fact, because it just kept me on my toes saying, okay, I'm just not blindly running back through these 2 rooms because I just came through them. You had to stop and examine the rooms again because there might have been something actionable opened up on your way back.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. I think that takes away from you're just crowbarring in time for me to run through the same levels, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
And that was a hell of a graphic right there when they blew the head off with the eyeball and everything.
But yeah, the way that Leon and Grace's story intersect, I think, is really well done as well. But yeah, and like I said, I think so much of the great Leon moments in this game is truly in the second half. And once we get into the spoiler discussion after everything's said and done, I can't wait to actually dive into it. But the one I was talking to a friend over the weekend, and I said that to me, Resident Evil Requiem is the Avengers Infinity War, Spider-Man No Way Home of Resident Evil. That this is clearly meant to set up something much, much larger than we are expecting, because there's a lot of plot threads in this game that I am excited to talk about. But this is truly the big setup for what's to come in the Resident Evil franchise. And yeah, I think in terms of all the callbacks, making the past Resident Evil games so meaningful, all culminating in this one beautiful, epic moment. Like, yeah, it's great. Templu says, how are controls, fluid or more like other RE games, usual and kind of? Yeah, I think they're pretty fluid. I think it flows great. I think it's just a more refined Resident Evil at this point. You know, I think Grace, you feel like someone who's inexperienced. You are running around like really stealthing it up. And Leon, you feel like an action hero. You are a dude who is just a G.I. Joe and just running around, just smoking zombies.
But what's funny is I understand what Shem's asking there in controls and RE games to be a little clunky. This is the most fluid I've seen any Resident Evil game. Like, I did not once am I thinking, wow, these controls, or I feel that it's clunky, or hey, I could have made that hit if the controls were smoother. Never once. Like, this is butter in my opinion.
No. The one thing I do want to bring up is I do think in past Resident Evil, some of the weapons have been more memorable, and I think some of them have been a little bit more fun. I do think the weapons in Requiem are serviceable. You know, I think they're good for what they are, but there wasn't that weapon in the game that really makes me go, oh, I mean, the Requiem, besides the Requiem being such a sick revolver, everything else, especially with Leon's gameplay, like I think the weapons were just fine. They weren't amazing. Like, I don't think people will look back on the whole catalog of weapons in Requiem and remember them for what they are. I think some of the past Resident Evils had more memorable weapons overall. Like I said, the Requiem itself will be a memorable weapon, but I think from a whole catalog standpoint, I think this one is just kind of standard and doesn't really push anything in terms of some of the weapons that we have seen in the other entries in the game. But yeah, overall, Requiem is a phenomenal game. I think this is, like I said, an easy 9.5 out of 10. This is an absolute must play. Obviously, if you're a Resident Evil person, you should be playing this right now. But even if you are someone who has been Resident Evil adjacent or likes the survival horror genre in some capacity, like, I definitely urge you to play Requiem, because there is so much here and so much to love that the 12-hour playtime that I went through it has been some of the most joyful moments that I've had in a game in a long time. Like, I keep thinking about a lot of moments that happen in the game. Like, I really like the game. When I am now going back on YouTube and watching some of the most insane moments from this, I'm like, oh, that, like, I was hooting and hollering during Resident Evil Requiem. Like, I was absolutely enthralled, and I am very much enjoying my second playthrough of the game already, with the new craziness that you get with your challenge points. But
I have not seen a negative review about this yet.
No, I mean, this game is very positive in front of everyone. And I think when the reviews did drop, it was the second highest rated mainline Resident Evil. That might have changed a little bit. But yeah, I think this game is absolutely phenomenal. I think it is an absolute must play. And it's the front runner for my game of the year so far. You know, I think as we start to go throughout the year, it's going to be very hard to topple this for me, just because I think the game itself is special. This is a very special video game that I don't think is going to be able to be replicated for a very long time. Like, even with Crimson Desert and GTA on the horizon, like, this one really, because I am a huge Resident Evil fan. I love this franchise. I played all the mainline games, and this one is truly, like I said, the Avengers Infinity War for Resident Evil fans. And Resident Evil fans are eating good. Bombay says, how about that soundtrack? Yeah, I think the soundtrack was good. I really enjoyed the music. I think the music in the later half of the game is amped up so much, especially with some of the scenes that, like, man, especially during the set piece of the game. For those who have beat it, like, you know what I'm talking about. The set piece of that game, the music and how exhilarating it was, it's just insane. But yeah, I'm excited to talk spoilers after this. Do you have anything else you want to talk about with Requiem?
No, Shem Plut says we're on our second playthrough. You guys play too much. That's because we're not jet setting all over the world like he is. That's why we have time, because we're not all over on vacations. But no, all I got to say is, again, it's rare that I would think that somebody would enjoy a game, and I can't imagine, if you're even remotely into Resident Evil or a horror game, this game's got to be at the top. It has to be at the top of your list, because even if you didn't buy it, like, to get it, like, I couldn't stand behind any other game that I know of this much and say, I don't care if it was $90, whatever it was. It is worth it. No glitches, great gameplay, great story, great pacing,
that's the one thing I will say. I think a lot of times Resident Evil stories are very schlocky and they're just over the top. Like, this one, like, is a really well told story. Like, realistically, like, I do think this was a well written story for the Resident Evil franchise. Like, it is just, like I said, this game is just phenomenal all the way around.
I'm going to be dropping as well, Cherry, because I can't listen to it. And Shem says, we have a spouse that tells us the game. She always pushes me to game. I go in and sit next to her to watch TV, and she says, isn't there a game you want to go play? So, it's pretty good. But I will drop out now. Jerry, I'd stay in for 2 seconds to see what I look like when I drop out before Kobe does the spoilers.
Yes, so there will be a spoiler tag to let people know when spoiler discussion starts. But before you leave, I'd like to remind each and every one of you that this Friday we are returning with the Gaming News Podcast. We do have a lot of things to talk about. A lot of things are popping up. So stay tuned. That's this Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. So stay tuned for that. Do you have any last words for people?
No. Yes, I do. Go buy Resident Evil. You will not be disappointed.
Yep. All right. I bid you farewell. I will stay here with the chat. To all those who don't want to hear it, feel free to come back later and hear me talk about all the spoilers. But if you don't care, stay. And if you be in it, stay. We're have a lot to talk about.
Just wait till you see my picture, then drop. All right, guys. Thanks.
Catch you later.
Bye.
So I got to add his picture here. So there he is. That is him. The Resident Evil creature is in the background as he sees all these spoilers happening. So to all those who are here or who are joining, we are now moving into the Resident Evil Requiem spoiler talk. So feel free to be in the chat if you want to discuss some things of Resident Evil Requiem. So yeah, this game, I'm going to give everyone 30 seconds to drop out. So when my hands go down, it is spoiler time. But once again, thank you all who are here for the normal review for coming by and seeing it. Go play Resident Evil Requiem. It was amazing. And we shall see in terms of Marathon what Marathon is going to do in the coming weeks. See if he's going to get a pizza. But that being said, Requiem, what a game. What an absolute game. And in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So, Resident Evil Requiem, the story. I want to start here. And to those who have been playing it, you'll know what I'm talking about. I want to start with the choice ending. The choice ending between, releasing or destroying Elpis. I think I do appreciate a choice ending. However, I do think it wasn't needed. This is one of my small little gripes of the story, because I do think that the release Elpis ending is so good, but the destroy Elpis ending really just says, you know what, you're gonna watch Leon get blasted in the head, and you're gonna suffer the consequences, because the entire game you are trying to figure out what Elpis is. And finally, you do figure out what Elpis is, but you don't realize in the moment that is the antiviral to the T virus. And Leon throughout the game was like, you know what, you need to destroy Elpis, even if it means anything. Like, you need to do this for me. So when I got to that moment, destroy Elpis was the first thing that I chose. And Bombay says I was in so much shock from that. Like, literally, yeah. Like, I was in disbelief with that ending because you hit destroy Elpis, you know, you destroy the antiviral, but you don't know it at the time. And Leon quickly pulls up Grace. He puts her up and he saves her. And he's like, at least I could save you. He has a fight with the character Zeno, which we're going to get to Zeno in a moment. But he has a fight with the character Zeno. And Zeno is absolutely whooping Leon because Leon's infection has finally reached its like culmination point. And Leon loses the fight. And Grace is sitting there forcing to watch this man get beat to death. And then finally, Zeno pulls out one of the coolest pistols in Resident Evil Requiem, which you can buy after you beat the game. Goes and you see what this revolver does or pistol earlier on when you first reach the Raccoon City, because you see what happens to the BSAA soldiers that were in the city, and the thing just absolutely rips through people. Zeno turns, boom, shoots off Leon's head. You see Leon's head explode, and then the game just ends. Like, Grace gets saved by a helicopter, and it just rolls into credits. And I was sitting there like, what the hell just happened? Leon literally just died. I'm like, and my girlfriend texted, she's like, oh, did you finish Resident Evil? And I'm like, I think so. But then what I do appreciate is you finish the game, you roll credits, and then right at the ending, you're like, hey, you want to re-roll? Do you want to go change your choice? And you go, and then you do the release Elpis ending. That's actually the canon ending of the game, which has such a strong ending. So with that as well, in terms of the releasing Elpis, I want to talk about Zeno real quick. And I think this is the only reason why this game knocked from a 10 to a 9.5 for me. Because obviously you find out that Zeno is pretty much a clone of Albert Wesker. And, you know, you see Bombay, I was on the verge of tears in the credits too. So I'm like, I just got Leon killed. But so I think Zeno was kind of not of a downfall, but like such a misused character in the game. Now, granted, I do understand why he was there, and it was to show that Elpis was the antiviral that stripped him of his powers. But that being said, I really think when you're building up a character who is supposed to be the clone of Albert Wesker, now granted, the way he does die in this is a callback to the original Resident Evil when Albert Wesker does die. So maybe he's not truly dead. And I think they might be saving him for the subsequent title. But I really think he was a misused character because they were really building him up to be the main antagonist of this game because, you know, before we talk about the set piece moment, but with Victor Gideon, he was lauded to be like the main guy, and then he falls off and pretty much like, you know, you see with Grace, Victor Gideon introduces you to Zeno, who is this, you know, wealthy man who is buying and wants to buy organic weapons like a Wesker. And Victor Gideon really kind of takes a backseat role and becomes the secondary villain, and then you kind of off him as Leon during the whole motorcycle sequence. And then Zeno ended up being the main villain who was taking Grace around, really wanting her to be part of the plan. And then he gets one-tapped by Victor Gideon. Victor Gideon makes a comeback. And also, I will say with Victor Gideon, really cool that they did a Nemesis callback. I really liked how Victor Gideon turns into the Nemesis, and Leon makes the quip about him being so relentless. Really cool stuff. But Victor Gideon just one-tapped Zeno, and I felt unsatisfied with the theoretical Zeno ending in this story. So I think that is my only true knock of the story, because I really wanted more from Zeno, or at least tease what he was going to do. Maybe because this whole game is about cloning. And we'll get into the Grace part of the cloning section, because I think that is very interesting. I really wanted more from Zeno, because when you get to RPD, you see him with the Wesker power set, which I thought was brilliant, because you see Leon shoot him and he does like the classic dodging where he's Matrix styling all over. And it was such a badass scene. So yeah, I really wanted more from that. But I do think the final fight of that game with Victor Gideon was great. You know, it's a callback to how Resident Evil 3 Remake did it, to varying degrees, but I really like the Nemesis part. And then I think the story culminates really well, where you get saved by Chris Redfield's people, and Leon is getting a message from Redfield. And I think we're finally going to see, like a good, proper Chris and Leon teaming up. And I think that's going to be super hype as we go into the next game. And then obviously with the child that my dad mentioned, she at a certain point, you kind of kill her what you thought you were going to kill her, but she was actually alive, and the baby thing that formed around her was just a shell. And Grace does adopt her, which I thought was a very fitting ending to that character, because so much of it was Grace really caring for this young girl that she found within the clinic center. And the girl's name was Emily. So we really saw the parallel between Ashley and Grace, with Grace and Emily. And I really like that, and how that all wrapped up and where they left off. Yeah, Bombay. I was also heartbroken when Emily died, because it was such a, we'll go there with the whole Emily storyline. So I really like the whole thing of Grace finds this blind child, Emily, in the care center that Victor Gideon is hiding down there. And you really start to care for this child, and Grace becomes an attachment for her. And this whole game is trying to save Emily from this place because of how horrific it is. And then after you fight what I assume to be, a clone of these little girls, of the Emilys that Spencer was making, and ended up becoming that huge creature that was chasing you around in the care center. And, you finally kill the big creature, because it even says, like, I just want to play, or something along that line, like really having a childlike mentality, which I thought was brilliant. It really brings this game full circle. And then Emily, she suffered a major wound, and then all of a sudden she starts turning into a creature like that. And Grace is just pleading with Leon as he is shooting this creature. And then as you find out later, Leon's like, I didn't shoot her in any like major areas. So like, I really like that. But yeah, that scene was heart wrenching, because Grace really shows her emotion with that, losing Emily, throwing down Requiem, and she's like, I can't do this anymore. And that's when she turns to pretty much the bad side and starts following Zeno. So I really enjoyed that whole part of the story. And then we got into the whole cloning aspect with Spencer and his grand plan. And I really thought that was interesting. And I really loved the orphanage sequence in this game, where you are essentially a small Emily clone, and you are running through the orphanage, and you are getting chased by these clones that ended up being horrific and mutated into these demonic little children that are super powerful, and they're snapping people's necks. And that was such a tense moment, where it ends up in Umbrella's laboratory and they sedate you. So I want to start talking about the Leon sections, because the Leon sections to me were some of the best moments in the game. And I really want to start, this moment is where I start hooting and hollering, the return of Mr. X. That moment when you're in RPD and you meet up with Zeno, and he says, I don't have any time for this. And you see Mr. X drop through the ceiling, and Leon's like, I remember you. Oh my God. Probably my favorite moment in the entire game, because it was so good to run back that whole moment of Resident Evil 2 of Mr. X chasing you around the police station and actually going through the routes that you did in Resident Evil 2, and like just reliving it. Even though it was a short sequence, it was a brilliant sequence that had me as a fan absolutely adored, because I remember I was sitting there and I'm like, oh my God, like this is so great. And that moment happened, and I leaned forward to culminate in the fight with the super tyrant. Oh my God, what an incredible fight. Bombay, you say I had such a problem with the pathing of that. What do you mean? Like, just like in terms of how the level design was? Because there was only one moment where I was like, I don't understand the pathing, but then I kind of figured out there was like one room they have to go in and have him break through. But all that being said, oh my God, what an incredible return of Mr. X to have. Okay, yeah, where and how to run. Yeah, there was a moment where I was a little bit confused too, especially when the big metal rocket spike or whatever came through and he was dragging it. I definitely got cleaved in half a couple times by it, but then I figured it out. But yeah, the Super Tyrant fight, oh my God, being able to take the hatchet and parry the arm and sliding off of it. And this like moment, oh my god, it was just so cool to fight Mr. X one more time. I really, really love that moment. The next moment in terms of returning things that I was like, holy crap, they're doing it, was when you go into the Umbrella laboratory that was underneath Raccoon City, and you see the return of the Lickers B2. Oh, oh my God, dude, the Lickers coming back. Bombay says that's the helicopter tail from the crash one. Oh, okay. Yeah, see, like I said, this game is like Avengers Infinity War for Resident Evil fans because there's so many little callbacks, but the return of the Licker was such a great moment, and seeing it through Grace's eyes in first person, like, I didn't think you can make the Licker any more terrifying, but making it this super tense stealth section that you have to use acid vials in order to even defeat them. Oh my God, seeing these new amped up Lickers were so good. I really love that section and how they incorporated it into this. Now, going back to Leon in terms of the Umbrella Academy, I actually want to go back to RPD for a second. Bombay, I don't know if you found this, but I did find Tofu. Tofu was in RPD. I was running and all of a sudden I heard boing, boing, boing. And I looked through the window and Tofu is looking at me and starts going off. And I'm like, yes, Tofu is canon now. The Tofu Survivor was awesome. Yeah, also, we'll get to the plant and see the seedlings in a moment. But yeah, the Lickers, I was in full on panic mode. But yeah. Oh, I didn't shoot Tofu. I'm like, I can't shoot Tofu, but that's awesome that the chunks flew off of him. But yeah, with Leon in the Umbrella Academy, thinking about the fourth survivor, the moment where you are walking in the hallway, and I thought, oh my God, we're going to get another laser section. But the cutscene happens, the door is open, and you see Hunk. Holy crap. I was like, no way we are going to be hatchet fighting with Hunk. And then they just start dueling, and Leon throws Hunk through the window, and you get into this area that looks like a scene from John Wick, where it's all like fog around it, it's all red lighting, and then you are just in a duel with Hunk. What an incredible moment in this game, having the fourth survivor come full circle, finally meeting Leon Kennedy and having a duel to the death. I thought, and then getting his hatchet called the Mortal Edge was so awesome. I was like, holy crap, I cannot believe we're fighting Hunk right now. To have a survivor that you play as in an optional mode in Resident Evil 2 that you have to unlock, and to actually be a climactic moment in Requiem was brilliant. I absolutely adore that moment, especially after Leon defeats him. Leon's like, that guy was a lot more tough than I anticipated. And Sherry was like, that's even a compliment from you, Leon. Like, yeah, what an incredible moment to fully fight Hunk. I really love that moment. Then obviously, Leon was going through the Umbrella Academy laboratory. You're doing you're finding about a whole bunch of information about Umbrella that I thought was super interesting in terms of where I think this game might go next. But yeah, then obviously, at a certain point in the game, Leon's infection becomes such an all-time high when Leon's fighting the Lickers that I really like the spontaneous like visions of blue that would distort your vision and really added a whole nother layer to the action gameplay. I also really like the moment that like the game turns from like a zombie shooting game into like a tactical shooter, that an elite squad of soldiers starts rolling through and you actually have to plan your shots and like hide behind cover. I really thought that was a nice change of pace to the overall final sequence of the game. Looping back, I said the motorcycle sequence, I said the set piece, what an incredible moment in this game. Bringing back the zombie dogs. And I really like what Resident Evil Requiem does. It starts as something brand new, and then it slowly becomes like what we knew and love. And bringing back so many different enemies and story beats of the past, really culminating like the bike scene, shooting the zombie dogs as Victor Gideon's chasing you with a rocket launcher. And then scaling a skyscraper, flying off, and then just shooting, and then having a jousting fight on a motorcycle with pistols. I'm like, yo, this game is absolute cinema. That was the moment where I'm like, yeah, this is so damn good. Bombay says the RPD was an absolute love song to RE2. The amount of Easter eggs here pay tribute to RE2 and expand on the trauma that Leon had from the events of RE2. There was not a single inch of the RPD that I didn't feel connected to. I wish that the RPD area would have been expanded a little, but that could have taken away from the fanfare that it brought. Yeah, I fully agree. I think the way that they incorporated RPD was very tasteful. I think that it was just the right amount, because I think when you get to a certain point, it becomes nostalgia bait. Like I think I'm going to equate it to the MCU. I've been equating a lot to the MCU, but the reason why like Infinity War works so well is it had meaningful callbacks that added to the grandiose of the story. Whereas modern MCU, like a lot of the newer ones where they have cameos just for fanfare's sake and just nostalgia slop, like I think it doesn't work. This one was used so well and tastefully that moment, like I remember seeing the achievement unlock says the hero returns. Like it was so well done to the point where like I agree. I wish there was more, but I also wish like this is the perfect amount that I needed. Yeah, just such a love song to RE2. And obviously all of Leon's section is a love song to RE4 as well. Even like a couple RE6 callbacks. Like I did not expect to have some RE6, but they mentioned it like a little bit, which I thought was really cool. But yeah, I just think that the way they worked with Leon's character in this game was so brilliant. It was so beautifully done. And I wish there was more moments of him showing himself under the bravado. Like I really adore those moments where we see the Leon who is traumatized. We see the one who suffered these events of RE2. Like it really humanized him in a way that I didn't expect because he is such an action hero. But yeah, obviously then the game builds towards Ark, which is where the Umbrella is the laboratory, and you roll through that and put an end to the last remnants of Umbrella. But we all know that's probably not going to be the end of it. There's probably going to be something Umbrella related in the next title. And obviously they tease something with the after credits in the game, where essentially new soldiers roll up, where it's more BSA, like you see that these BSAA soldiers are dead and that they've been killed by another group of soldiers from a mysterious organization. They retrieve something off screen. The game ends and it's setting up a sequel to whatever happened in the post-credit scene. So we're definitely going to see something along those lines. There's definitely going to be more bioweapons, 100%. And I definitely think we're going to see a Chris Redfield and Leon dual protagonist game. I really think, or maybe a Clara Redfield. Like maybe we're going to, I can't wait to see what combination we do. Maybe we even get 3 protagonists. I don't know. But I also just really adore Grace's story as well. Like her story was so well thought out and like essentially inheriting like the sins of the mother, but her mother was actually like hiding her and like protecting her. And also the twist that, we all thought Grace was a clone, but then she ended up not being a clone, and she was actually Spencer's like true thing. And obviously Ashley kidnapped her from Spencer, because if Grace stayed with Spencer, it would have ended horribly. I thought that was well done. Just literally taking the entire lore of Resident Evil, putting it into this 12-hour package and putting a bow tie around it and saying like, this is the culmination of all the story beats we've had in the past. Like, I don't really think it was that over the top. Like, yes, there are over the top moments. But it was all well done. Bombay, you say, honestly, Grace stole the game for me. Like, yeah, I think Grace's moments were really well done. And like my favorite Grace section is the one with the liquors. Like, I think having the fanfare of RE2 be brought to the modern era through the lenses of a new protagonist was so well done. Like, I don't think they could have done this any other way. And like I said, also, I think the Leon things are great. I also love, I didn't talk about, but Leon's currency system, because you get that later in the game, like how the game rewards you for being super aggressive with Leon and earning credits. Like, I love the buying system. I love the upgrade system in this. I also really like that you can attach a red dot sight to Leon's weapons and you can actually aim with first person for better precision. Like, this game has so many different mechanics, so many different layers that it's brilliant at the end of the day. Like, I really, like I said, my only criticism was with Xeno's story. But that being said, everything else was so beautifully well done. I adore Resident Evil 9 Requiem. This is my personal favorite Resident Evil. Like, at a certain point, like, I don't know how you can get better than this, but it is, I cannot wait for the subsequent title. I cannot wait to see what they do. And if the rumors are true that they're remaking Code Veronica and remaking 5, I can't wait to see how they take the remake timeline and loop it into Resident Evil 10 and see how this all culminates and where are we going to go. But Bombay, I wanted to ask you, what was your personal favorite moment of Resident Evil Requiem? Because I said mine is just the return of Mr. X. Mr. X returning was my favorite moment. Just all RPD was my favorite moment. But from Grace's section, the liquor was my favorite moment. But also a huge shout out to the cellar. I think the cellar was so well done. What an incredible section for Grace, where you had to get the batteries, and you're running around, and it's that split sec moment where the big monsters behind you slam the battery in and the lights come on, burning it and scaring it away. That was the most tense section of the whole game for me. I loved the cellar and everything. And then all of a sudden getting on the conveyor belt with the thing that's chopping up all the zombies, and you're having to like maneuver and like push the zombies in. Incredible stuff. Incredible. But yeah, let me know what your favorite moment was before we close this out, and anything else you want to bring up about spoilers with Resident Evil 9 Requiem. I mean, there isn't like a single moment that is like, it's just, there's so many moments in this game that are just brilliant. Like, it's hard. Like, the whole game is just absolutely phenomenal and so well put together. Yeah, what a game. What a game. Like, I played it on standard classic, and I really liked having the ink ribbons to save with Grace as well. That added so much more complexity to how I played as Grace. Like, I was really, really contemplating what to do. Also, huge shout out to the two, like, I thought they were going to be persistent enemies, but you can actually kill them. Huge shout out to the chef and to the chunk in the clinic area. I really like those moments, especially the first time that the chunk is introduced, and how visceral and scary it is as this thing is getting stuck in between doorways and just completely shoving its way through as you see the interior start to deteriorate around you, and it's chasing you down the stairs. I killed that thing. I had 2 shots in my Requiem, pop, pop, and then a couple shots with a pistol. Absolutely smoked it. I also killed the chef too. I really liked how you were able, like, they tease you to think that these are going to be enemies chasing you around the entire time, but you can kill them immediately. Also loved the introduction of the singers. I thought the singers were really cool, and that you can actually get antique coins from them. I also really enjoyed that there wasn't, I thought the puzzles were well done. They weren't overbearing in this game. I really liked the pacing of it. But yeah, Resident Evil Requiem, brilliant, brilliant game. Only let down by some of Xeno's parts, and the choice ending I do think was a little interesting. Bombay says the ability to kill each one of them in different ways is awesome. I never thought about being able to kill them with the injector thing. Yeah. The injector was such a cool concept too. Something that I didn't really use. I only used the injector realistically 3 times. And it was in the moment where Emily is trying to open the door in the clinic, or no, open the puzzle box, because she can read the braille. And the enemies who were definitely meant for Leon were kind of roaming around that had the mutated heads. And I would go up, sneak, and hit the injector into them. The blood puzzle thing, so many people had issues playing lights out, was dumbfounding. I didn't have too many issues with the blood puzzle. I thought it was kind of straightforward, but I don't know. Yeah, overall, I think everything was super well designed. But yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Requiem at this point. I can't wait to finish my second playthrough. I can't wait to fully 100% this game. Like, it is, I love it. I think it's the best Resident Evil. It's my favorite Resident Evil. And I can't wait to see what they do with RE10, because I think if this is any indication, it's going to be super special. But thank you all to have watched this. Thank you all for joining the little bit of a spoiler talk. It has been a blast. But all that being said, remember, this is the Father and Son Gaming Podcast right here on Active Reload Gaming. You can follow us on all of our socials right here on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Spotify, Blue Sky. We're at Active Reload Gaming. Twitch and Twitter or X is Active Rel with an REL, Active Rel Gaming. And in the top left corner, you can also join our Discord and come chat with us. That being said, this Friday, reminder, we are having the news podcast. So stay tuned at 7 p.m. Eastern and 4 p.m. Pacific. And, as time goes on, let me know how you all enjoyed Resident Evil Requiem. Did you enjoy it as much as we did? A little bit less, a little bit more? Let us know. We are happy to hear your thoughts. All right. I'd like to wish you all a great rest of your week, and we will see you all next time. Catch you all later.